Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, your Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me today, Fox 40's Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
I'm terrific. There's no rain in sight, and
I am terrific.
I'm getting absolutely. I'm getting people on my side now. I am out in these streets, and people are like, "Dude, we hate the rain too. Keep talking about it." And it's like, whatever. I'm not going to keep talking about it, but it is cool. I should mention shout out Ian at Yard House for saying hi to us just in the past couple days. I was out with some friends last night, literally in Elk Grove. I can't remember. I don't think I got his name, but a big 49ers fan came up to me at my favorite restaurant out there, Peony Palace. Shout out Peony Palace at the Mongolian barbecue line. And he goes, "Hey, you know what? Be kind to Brenden. You guys got to leave Brenden alone." Very nice gentleman. And then
at the
Chris
Peony Palace that happened?
At Peony
That's your
Palace
place.
with some friends. And then I was all by myself at Target down in over by the Arden. Sorry, not the Arden area, by the Natomas area. This guy just walks up. He's like, "Man, when are they gonna trade Rashawn Holmes?" So it's really kind of cool, man. It's like the various approaches I really enjoy. So that's all in just the past 3 days. So I think this little podcast, fellas, is catching on.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I've told you this a million times. Like the podcast is what it doesn't matter how much TV work or writing that I've done.
Right.
It's always the podcast. Hey, James, love the podcast. All right, thank you, Mr. Norwell. Okay, and of course, let's introduce Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. See, I got my mic back. I can
sure
go
did.
ahead and crank it up. What's going on, Brenden?
Lucky us.
Not too much, guys. I'm doing good. It's funny because I definitely get similar comments on the other side of don't feel bad, man. Don't feel bad. Don't let them bully you. And I'm like, guys, I'm fine here. Like, I'm really not going through it or anything. So
Nobody puts Brenden in the corner.
no.
Gotta be nice to him. Gotta be nice to him.
That's funny. All right, well, we've got plenty to talk about today. The Sacramento Kings just keep winning. I'm so not used to this. What is happening? They've moved 6 games over 500 at 24-18. Can they get to I was hoping they could get to 30 before 20, but before 20 losses. I don't think that's going to happen. But maybe, who knows? They've actually opened the door for a possibility of that.
James, they might be in third. They might be in third by week's end. Maybe by Friday.
I think they could move into a tie or, maybe not. Maybe not. I could have sworn they were within a half game, but now they're not. They're a game back of New Orleans. I'm not sure when New Orleans plays.
They play today against Miami.
Oh, okay. So yes, they could move into a tie for third, or they maybe even solo possession. I don't know. But this is pretty wild. We're seeing some really good basketball on the offensive end, some absolute trash defense still. But we'll get into a short discussion here on what's happening and what's happening later tonight. We're recording this. Let's see, what is today? Today's Wednesday. They take on LeBron James and the Lakers this evening. But let's just get to the basics. If you're watching on YouTube and don't mind, could you give us a thumbs up? If you're new to the Kings Beat, we would appreciate if you subscribe. Also, go to thekingsbeat.com and subscribe there. Become a premium subscriber to get an invite to the happy hour, which I think we're going to do next Thursday. That's sort of where I'm at right now. I think it's possible that the Kings don't play and that we have an actual day where we could fit one in. So we'll work on a guest for that date, and I'm pretty sure. So I think is that the 24th? No, 25th, 26th? Let me see. Yes, yep. I think that's the 26th. So tentatively put that on your radar. 5:30 to 7:30, we usually run the happy hours, and we'll have a guest for you and all that stuff. So keep that in mind. Outside of that, again, it's kind of fun to watch good basketball, or at least competitive and winning basketball, whether it's 100% good basketball or not. Brenden, what do you make of this? Is it 5-game or 6-game streak where they've scored 130 or more?
It's 5.
Yeah, 5 games now. I mean, it's borderline historic offensive production. I mean, it's a little disappointing that they still managed to lose one of those games, and I think it's very telling for just how poor their defense can be at times. Even that game against San Antonio, there were moments in that first half that I thought were pretty concerning on the defensive end. But I've started to come around to think that against these lesser teams, that there's just going to be a quarter at some point where they do play defense and win the quarter by 10, 15 points. Like I feel like we've seen it a couple times now where the defense is frustrating for a majority of the game, but all it takes is a decent stint, a quarter of really locking in on that end of the floor. And Sacramento's offense will still be there more often than not, it feels like. And then they're able to take off from there. There's 39-26. They outscored San Antonio in that third quarter. I forget which game it is. There was a 41-20 fourth quarter during this same stretch.
It probably was against the Rockets.
I think it was one of those Rockets games, but I've really come around to like expecting, even after a poor first half, that at some point they're going to have a great quarter if they can lock in a little bit on the defensive end. And I think context is important with the teams that they've been up against, obviously, with being the Lakers, Orlando, Houston twice, San Antonio. Like, these are not good teams. But, I mean, when you're putting up those type of numbers, it really takes just a 12-minute stretch of actually locking in on the defensive end, and then you're kind of able to run away with it from there.
Yeah, and I think, to that point, it is important to point that out. People should be excited because this is the stretch of games where we were hoping that they would build some of that equity we've talked about, build some of those, 5-6 games over 500 and take care of business for the long haul of the regular season that comes once you get back, once you start this, like, what is it, a 7-game road trip coming that's on the horizon. So these are things that could get people into a frenzy and thinking the team is better than what they are. Not that I want to play the negative person here, because I think people should be very, very excited. I think, again, we talked about weeks ago that we feel that this team is proven that they're going to be a competitive basketball team, efficient, high-paced offense, and one that is going to compete and probably going to be in the playoff discussion. So that's fine, but it's also helped to notice that there's still only 4 games that separate you from like being the 11th seed. So just bearing that in mind, this is that important stretch where you really need to capitalize. And to Brendan's point about the streak of 130 right before they head into LA tonight, I kind of expect them to throw up 130 points again because they did it against the Lakers. The unfortunate part is that loss did come against the Lakers, so there is some payback. It's very interesting that this is going to be the final game between the Lakers and the Kings of the season, of the regular season, and that's just very strange for division rivals to be done with each other at the midpoint of January. Very, very odd.
Yeah, actually, I'll just bring that up right now while we're discussing it. It's a monumental game. Like, I know the Lakers are at the bottom. What are they, like the 12th seed right now? Maybe even 13th?
I was just looking at it. Yeah, they're 13th.
Yeah, they're not good. But if you can knock them down even another rung and put them another game in the loss column, but the other thing that people need to realize is that the Kings have already beat the Lakers twice. And if you beat them a third time, you now have the season series, which if there's some reason that the Lakers put it all together and come storming back and you end up tied at the last game of the season, but you're tied for the 8th spot. Well, now you're going to get the home court advantage, in a play-in game against the Lakers. And that's big. I mean, every single thing that you can get, every one of these little pieces to the puzzle, you got to try to obtain. And, like the Kings have lost, what are they? They're 2-1 against the Warriors. I mean, they're 1-2 against the Warriors. They got to find a way to beat the Warriors that last game to split it just in case. And I think it also goes to the bigger picture of the Pacific Division. I mean, this team has an opportunity to actually win the Pacific, which I did not think was a possibility at the beginning of the season.
No,
even
not
if
at all.
even if they made the play-in or the playoffs, I still expected them to be like the 3rd or 4th best team in the Pacific. And that's just not the case right now. So I think these wins are good. I think that the win streak, what are they? They're 4 straight right now. We've talked about like the 9-game stretch. They're 5-2 over the first 7 games of the 9-game stretch with 2 highly competitive games against teams well below them in the standings right now. And so, like, I expect this to be a pretty good game against the Lakers this evening. I don't know. LeBron is questionable, but I'm going to guess he plays. They're still down a few other players, including Anthony Davis, and so you got to go out and take advantage when it's there for the taking. And you can't have one of these games where Thomas Bryant goes for 29 and 12, and Dennis Schroeder has 27, and
I feel like he's going to be a huge factor again, though. I mean, he was a monster.
well, if he's hitting his shots, he's really good, but like you just can't give him like a wide open run. I feel
Talking
like
about Thomas Bryant, because I think like even the
yeah,
physicality he played with, like that was smack the Kings in the mouth kind of thing. Yeah, they need to have a better answer, better response to that.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, just I guess we'll just take off from there. What are you expecting tonight, Brendan, from this team? Because they have shown that they kind of have started to build something. They're on a roll, and it seems like they've almost like woken up to the where they are in the standings, the realization of like what this stretch means and how they can build like sort of their war chest for later in the season when things might get tougher.
Yeah, I think that Russ and LeBron have given the Kings some issues, and that's just the lack of perimeter containment that shows itself in the points in the paint that they give up. That Coach Mike Brown has been emphasizing needs to be cleaned up so much for what feels like months now. The real issue in that last Lakers game is the Lakers had 70 points in the paint, and I did think Thomas Bryant and Dennis Schroeder played big parts, but I thought that was off of the penetration of LeBron and Russell Westbrook and then them kind of making plays from there. But really just protect the paint best you can, force that team to try to beat you from the 3-point line. I mean, the Lakers are 29th in 3-point attempts and 27th in 3-point percentage. Like, this was the game, if I'm not mistaken, that they didn't hit a single three in the second half. And I think that you just need to force the Lakers to beat you from beyond the arc and be better at protecting the paint. I think this is, while the Lakers do have a not great looking record, I think they have a lot of talent, and this is a good opportunity to show that you are improved at protecting the paint, which is like far and away your biggest weakness.
And I think we're all expecting LeBron to play. Even though he's coming into this game as questionable, he's certainly had a couple games that he hasn't played this season. But it seems like he's always questionable in the injury reports lately, and he still manages to gut it out. I know it's an ankle injury for him, but I'm definitely expecting him to play. By the way, can I say so, like we not to switch gears, but just analyzing the standings and looking at them so much, I think we were the kiss of death. I know like Devin Booker's injury has a great deal to do with it, but like when we thought that even still that the Phoenix Suns would be this team to kind of still reckon with in the West, or even in the Pacific Division, and then they lose 9 of 10. Like, I think that's our fault. I think we did that.
Do you think we did? Well,
I think that's our
if
fault.
if we have that power, we need to do that to a few more teams.
I didn't see that coming. My gosh.
The New
Yeah.
Orleans Pelicans are really good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? But I might go the opposite on them. Like they've been in like 6 overtime games. I kind of still feel like they're a little bit of a not fool's gold. Like I just don't think they're as good as they are. I think like 6th, sure. 3rd, no way.
I think a lot of people would say that about the Kings too.
Yeah, probably. And
Yeah.
you know what? They might be right by the way that they defend, but I have no problem with that. Like for the Kings, it doesn't matter. Like sure, as long as you're in the dance. I mean, that's fine. But for the Pelicans, and maybe the same thing applies, especially when you're dealing with an injury to Zion Williamson. But I just don't think they're as good as. I just don't think they're 3rd. I really don't.
Yeah, I haven't been sold on them, especially their injury issues. There seems to be some sort of like conversation around Brandon Ingram missing 9 games with a bruised toe. I don't know if you saw that like some of his teammates might be questioning, like, hey, what's going on there? I don't know. That team it really is a team filled with injury prone players. And so you can't say, hey, we didn't expect to have all these players miss time with injury. It's like, okay, what did you expect? Because those guys always miss time with injury. So I'm not really sure how that would be, it would pan out differently. And I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and that's the response. Like the flip side of that coin is because of that. Look at they've still been up there now. They've been able to secure 3rd in the West. It's like, that maybe they are what they are. I just for some reason I watch them play, and I constantly scratch my head with them. I don't know how they do it. They've got great talent. I'm not trying to take away from them, but I just 3rd in the West. I don't know.
They
Good
got
for
some
them.
nice. They've got
They
some
know they
nice
do.
tertiary
They do.
pieces too. Like I like Herb Jones. I like what is it, Grand Theft Alvarado. Yeah, I like some of the smaller pieces on their team, and I've always been a CJ McCollum fan. I think he's just a really good player. I don't think he's an all-star. I don't think he's exceptional, but he's a very good NBA player. That level, like right around what Rudy Gay was in his prime, or maybe a little bit better. But just a really high quality player. I like the moves that they make. I like the draft picks that they make. I like Dyson Daniels. I like, they do a lot of things that actually make sense when you're building a team, but they still don't have enough shooting. They still have
Right.
some holes that they got to
Well,
figure
and
out.
when Zion's on the floor, it's completely different. It's different, and it's a well-oiled machine at that point. So I wouldn't want to see them in his playoff series if he's healthy. But if he's not there and he's not healthy, or there's even any kind of question mark, they don't really scare me that much in a playoff series. Just my
Looking
random thought.
looking at the top six and kind of talking through some of the injuries that some of these teams have, like the Kings have to be the most healthy of this top six, right? They've been extremely healthy this year. And at some point, there's going to be, I mean, probably going to be a hiccup somewhere there. And Domas is obviously the one that would hurt you the most. And then from there, I guess you'd kind of just seeing how it goes. But the Kings have been extremely healthy this year. And I think that's played a big part.
What about
Yeah,
Denver? Denver, I can't really think of an. And I know they've had some like Michael Porter. They watch him a
Right. I
little
was just
bit,
thinking of
but
those guys coming back, right?
I thought it took Murray a little while to get going too. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the Kings have had a bunch of one-offs, right? Like Kevin Herter misses 2 games. I think he had one other point in the season where he missed 1 game. Malik Monk missed a game. De'Aaron Fox has missed 3 total, but 2 one stretch and 1 another stretch. Sabonis has missed 1 game. That's pretty good. Like that's we can't really like put a finger on like one player who's missed like 3 weeks or something.
Finger on, pun intended, with Domantas Sabonis and Keegan and what they're dealing with.
Yeah, I think Keegan missed a game too, right? I think he's missed a game.
I think he missed the
Um,
first game of the year.
That was COVID, right?
oh,
Was it
I forgot
COVID?
about
I can't
that.
remember what it was.
No, I think you might be right. Yeah, that was that was a long time ago. It seems
Yeah.
like a long time ago now. We're not used to having a good time during the season and seeing like success. So it's just very different. It's very different. So, okay, I think we'll start with Sabonis. What we've seen from Sabonis, of course, over the last, the entire time he's been a Sacramento King, but really over the last couple of months has just been like stunning how good he is. He wins Western Conference Player of the Week for this last week, averaged a triple double on the week. Well deserved. And kind of like it keeps putting him in not just a conversation for, for the All Star game, but we're starting to talk like All NBA. Like I expect him at this point to become like third team All NBA, just because there are 2 centers that are both MVP candidates that you're probably going to rank above him in Jokic and Embiid. But just where are you guys putting him? I guess like with this award, it's pretty stellar to see the Kings have 2 players in one season win a Western Conference Player of the Week award. You like to see it carry on and him maybe win the Western Conference Player of the Month. I think it definitely will depend on the Kings' record coming out of the month, but he's been just about everything you could possibly imagine, and then maybe like a lot more.
Yeah, 21 games played since the start of December. He's averaging 21 points, 14.2 rebounds, just under 4 of those being offensive, 7.7 assists, and that's 63% from the field. If you want to throw in the 46% from 3 on just over 1 a game as well. I think my most recent thing with him where he's been super aggressive, like this guy has a broken thumb, and I feel like last game was the most dunks we've seen from him all year. He was extremely aggressive. Zach Collins stood no chance guarding him.
No.
When it was Jakob Pertl, that was a fine matchup, but Zach Collins was just getting destroyed by Sabonis, and it looked like his eyes lit up. I can't remember the last time we've seen Domas just be like, "This is I can do whatever I want right here. Like this is barbecue chicken," and he just went to work. And I thought that was amazing. I think this is the part where I have to say I think that Sean was right. I didn't know if
You're
Domas could
welcome.
be a guy that's a 20 plus point per game scorer, and we've seen him be more of that. And I've loved the really aggressive, getting his own shot, but not like forcing it, but just recognizing his opportunities more. And obviously, if it bends the defense when he's attempting that, he's still going to make the right pass. But I think that he's gotten so much more aggressive on the offensive end when it comes to getting his own shot. And he's still going to do all the little things well. I mean, can't say enough how much he enables the rest of his teammates, makes everybody around him better on the offensive end. And he's been all you could hope for defensively as well. So I guess this is where I say I think Sean was right.
Ah, yes. Let me stretch my legs. Enjoy this moment.
He's not
Yeah,
there
man.
yet. He's at
Well,
18-9. He gets stuck at 18-9. He has not hit 19. It's just like I've never seen a player that like gets limited at such a strange number and so high of a number. But then you kind of feel like, oh, I don't know if he can average 20 a game. I think he can, but I don't know if he can for 82. I don't know. I think he can average 19, but just getting to 20 seems like it's a really difficult thing.
Should be the goal of the coaching staff to make sure he gets the amount of shots and attempts and looks necessary to do that. I mean, just what a workhorse, though. There's so much he can do. I mean, we just gush about him every single week we do this, and every game you just see his importance. I mean, whether he's even bringing the ball up the court, whether he's just his court vision, the rebounding. I mean, he's putting up numbers that just make you go, wow, like what are you doing? And it's like it's not quite having Nikola Jokic, but it's about as close as you can get. You know, it really is. And so, and he does it in such a smooth way. Like sometimes, like Jokic, who's probably one of the most fun basketball players to watch on the planet. Not that Sabonis is terribly far away from that, but sometimes you look at when Jokic does stuff and you go, how the hell did he do that? Like the most unathletic person on the floor just did something that was not only athletic, but like almost like a magician with the basketball. When Sabonis does it, it's like, oh yeah, that made sense. That was beautiful. Like this doesn't look clunky. This looks like, oh sure, yeah, here he comes going court to court and just a one-handed bounce pass into the lane for a dunk. Like it's fun to watch every single night, and he's a shoo-in. I'm sorry, I don't want to put a jinx on it, but he is a shoo-in for the All-Star team. There's no way coaches are going to go against and move him out of that slot. He's just been that not only impactful for his team. You just look all over the leaders. It's just Sabonis all over the leaderboards. So to what he does as an assist player, as a playmaker, it's ridiculous. So I think Kings fans should be very excited. They get excited to see their team represented on the national stage, and he's definitely going to do that. There's no doubt in my mind. I think I was kind of having some fun just kind of ranking 12 players in the West. And I think the conversation obviously gets harder for Fox, and I know that wasn't really the topic of discussion. We were talking about Sabonis, but I've seen even on the national stage, people ink both of those two guys in there. I don't think that's going to happen personally, but I think that's okay, even if it doesn't. Like Sabonis is going to represent Sacramento, and you've got an opportunity for Fox maybe, but I don't see it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was doing like a look into the sort of the deeper analytics, and one of the things that stood out is that Quinn Snyder used to always push hard for screen assists to be something that like people looked at in the NBA, and it was because Rudy Gobert was really good at it, and it's something that Sabonis is incredible at. So not only does he average he's at 7.1, maybe a little bit over that right now, right? Assists per game. But then he's second in the league behind Steven Adams in screen assists, which are basically screens that lead directly to a basket for your teammate. And the numbers are absolutely crazy. So on the season, he's averaging 18.9. Then he has a standard assist that he's averaging whatever it was, it's 7.1, 7.2, 7.1 when I wrote this, but 18.7 assists, points per game come off of his 7.1 assists, which is crazy too. And then his screen assists, he averages, I think it's 5.3 per game. And that equates to another 13 points per game for the Sacramento Kings. So we're seeing this, go absolutely crazy, and like the Kings scoring so many points is ridiculous. Sabonis between his own points, between assisted baskets, and between screen assists, is at 50.6 points per game for this team, which is just like, holy cow, how in the world are you being that impactful? For one player to account for, 50 points a game it shows you the value of him, but it also shows you how difficult it is to replace him if he's either injured or misses some games, or you just need someone
On
to
the
fill
bench
in.
for 5 minutes.
Yeah, or on
Bless you, James. The even going just looking at the double doubles, man. Like at halftime, the amount of double doubles we look over
he's
and it's
got
like, oh my
7.
god,
I think he's got 7 first half double doubles.
it's ridiculous, man. Just crazy.
No, it is. I mean, like, it's hard to not sit here and talk about just how great he is. And the other thing I'll bring up too, I know like people like must have a drinking game when I bring up Mason Plumlee, but it also, if you look at like the way that Mason Plumlee actually impacts a game, it's similar. He's just like the really, really poor man Sabonis. So he's like 4th in the league in screen assists. He also averages over 3 assists per game on the season, and he accounts for quite a few buckets, even though he doesn't have the sheer volume of assists that we're seeing from Sabonis. He still does impact the game, and he's a player that's why I bring him up, because it's so hard to like figure out how to replace Sabonis, or even like how have your team not slow down when Sabonis steps off the floor. But then again, I mean, do we really need to worry about that with the Kings averaging, leading the league at over 120 points per game and scoring 130 every night right now? I don't know.
I don't know.
Can I throw one of my factor caps your guys' way since it fits this conversation?
Oh, are we gonna
Snap.
jump the gun? It's not your turn yet.
Just
No, I'm
one.
kidding. Go
We'll
ahead.
keep the others for later.
It's a now and later.
Right.
Sean? It's a now and later.
So,
All right.
if the season ended today,
That's
Domantas Sabonis would be 3rd team All-NBA. There are 2 guards, 2, what's the wording they use? Wings, forwards, and then there's a center on each team, which is why Embiid didn't make 1st team last year, because Jokic was 1st. And in my mind, those are still 1 and 2, Jokic and Embiid. And then just to throw some other names out there for the conversation, I think Bam Adebayo belongs in the conversation. 21 points, 10.1 rebounds, 3.1 assists. He's great on the defensive end. If you want to throw Jarrett Allen in there, just under 14 points on 63% from the field, just under 10 assists or rebounds as well. It's really hard to find other names that belong in there, though. Like Anthony Davis stands out, but he's only played 25 games this year.
The Jared Allen one was a stretch. Like that's, you know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
just trying to mention other names.
for
you know,
sure.
like,
And that shows you the sheer drop off and reason,
Right.
like Adebayo, you mentioned right there. The only reason you can consider even Adebayo is for how great he is defensively.
right. It weirdly feels like,
It's a
I guess I'll let
runoff.
you guys answer too, or answer first, but factor cap, if the season ended today, Domantas Sabonis is 3rd team All-NBA.
Well, fact. Yeah. There's no to me there's no doubt in my mind, James. I see you hesitating. And you're muted, so it's even worse. Oh, James isn't with us. James.
Mr. Hammer?
Your audio.
Oh, I forgot to unhit that unmute button.
There it is.
Yeah, he's 3rd in the league in win shares. Like, he leads the league in rebounding. He leads the league in defensive rebound percentage. Like, to me, he's a top. Is he a top 10 player? And I mean, I'm not saying like he is a top 10 player. Like, he's playing as a top 10 player.
Could you try again?
Now my watch is going off. I think he
Pets'
like
heads are falling off.
if you look at statistically speaking, and you look at his impact on the Kings, his impact on winning, you could make the argument that he is a top 10 NBA player at this point. Like, especially the advanced statistics say that he is. So, is he like all NBA for sure? Will he get there? We'll have to wait and see, because there are some politics that go on here. I think it would be huge. Because there is we have this weird thing with his extension, right? So the Kings could try to extend him this summer, but they're really not going to be able to because they can only give him a small percentage of what he would make on the open market. Because his salary for next year is only like 19.2 million. Well, I looked in, there are clauses in the CBA that say, well, if you make all NBA, like first, second, or third team, or if you're in a league MVP, or like there's like specific things, and you're eligible for a larger percentage of salary cap and all this stuff. And so I checked with Eric Pincus, who's a salary cap expert, and he said, yeah, that won't work because he was traded during his first 4 years. So it eliminates him from getting like the super max, which I don't know. That seems like a strange rule and a strange way to penalize somebody. But either way, like I was looking for other ways that maybe the Kings could find a way to extend him. And there is like sort of a weird, sneaky way the Kings could find a way to extend him this summer. I don't know that it will happen. But like because you can, when a player's entering the final year of his contract, you can renegotiate a contract the final year, and then you can extend off of that. So the Kings, if they're under the cap, which they will be under the cap, they could actually use their cap space to bump Sabonis' salary from 19 point whatever million to say 30 for next season and eat up like an additional like $10.6 million in cap space. And then they could sign him to a 4 year or 5 year extension off of that, basing the number off of the 30 million mark. So there are ways to
I
actually
just went cross-eyed on that one.
try to
That
do
was-
it.
So,
Yeah, but it's complex.
and
and
he'd
the
have. I mean,
benefit
sorry,
would
go
just
ahead,
be
Brandon.
to be able to reward him with more money.
Well, the benefit would be that you would lock him up for a 5 or 6 year contract now, as opposed to having to wait until he's an unrestricted free agent the next year.
But
Okay.
he still stands to make more money with the unrestricted free agency, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, but is he going to make 40 million a year? I mean, it's possible.
I
Maybe
don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's where you're
at
looking.
this rate.
Like, yeah, maybe.
he, he has no reason, and nor should he, to cut any team a deal. And if you're talking about, 30 million for 6 years, if you can do that, that's pretty special. But
No, the starting salary would be 30. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you can bump
yeah,
him up to 30 million, then you're basing his 8% raises off of that amount. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. I
Oh,
like
man.
that. There's a like there is an outside chance, but I'm gonna guess that the Kings have other things earmarked for this summer, and then that they're gonna try to retain him with every ounce of their being the next year. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, you're
I think
starting over as a franchise if you lose him.
if I'm a betting man, and I'm not, but if I am, it's heading to unrestricted free agency. I think it's the right thing for him to do. I think his people would say the same thing, and I think honestly, and it's nothing to do with whether or not he wants to be in Sacramento or not. I think him being on the open market, being wined and dined, him being able to choose his own destiny for not only his future but for a winning situation and all that stuff, I think is exactly what they want to do.
Yep. No,
And
I think it's in.
that could be very well here in Sacramento. So I don't want anyone to be scared about that. They should be nervous about it but it's still off in the distance. Enjoy the now, and
Yeah.
the things are trending the right way. Because if you can't win, then if you can't show that you can sustain success with him, then it's not gonna be an option.
Yeah, he wouldn't want to be in Sacramento if they weren't winning. I can't imagine. Yeah, I mean, and it kind of brings us to like the next conversation. Although, Brennan, you have something you want to add?
Not too much. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he should be all NBA. I think to Sean points earlier, he should absolutely be an all-star. It shouldn't even be a question at this point. It's weird to listen to like a Zach Lowe podcast and he's talking about how Sabonis should be a starter and there's not much question. Like, what type of world are we living in right now? I love it, and Sabonis is absolutely deserving. The last Sacramento King to make an All NBA team. James and I looked this up before Sean hopped on, but Sean, would you like to take a guess?
The last Sacramento King to make an All NBA team, I want to say Weber.
It's actually DeMarcus Cousins. Made second
Oh
team
God,
twice.
I forgot
DeMarcus
Demarcus.
Cousins.
I
I
think
forgot.
2016-17, the year he got traded, was the last year. Most recent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while.
I'm actually embarrassed. I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's all right, Sean.
Shame on me.
We'll
I'll go
blame it on the
sulk in the
rain.
corner. Yeah. No, it's not raining anymore. Thank you.
Okay, so it brings us to like the next conversation because right behind Domantas Sabonis in the Player of the Week category was Harrison Barnes, and Harrison, like his stats for the week were like beyond incredible. Like I don't even think I've seen something like that from a Kings player. He shot like 66% from the field and like 64% from three. Like his week was absolutely wild and crazy. And I guess it leads us to the discussion of like, I mean, if he can be your third best player or your third best scorer, it makes you a better team. I mean, he's right there. This is how I thought this season would play out, where they had like three or four guys that could actually be the third leading scorer on this team. But he's up to 15 points a game on only like 9 shots a game. He's shooting 36.6% from three after shooting 16% in the first like 2 weeks of the season. Like everything that we're seeing from him is pretty spectacular. But now the Kings are almost in like, I don't want to say it's a worst case scenario, but it is kind of the worst case scenario. Like you got to a point where you have a player who is an unrestricted free agent this summer, but he means way too much, not just on the court the way he's playing right now, but way too much as far as like to your chemistry, to your culture, to everything that you're trying to build in Sacramento. And you're going to have to risk, I don't think that there's any way around it. The Kings are going to have to risk walking into this offseason with Harrison Barnes as an unrestricted free agent and whatever that entails. And so I guess more of my question, do you think the Kings have done enough to show Harrison Barnes that maybe he does want to stick around?
Uh, the way I look at that is I think the Kings have shown enough by virtue of bringing on Domantas Sabonis. I think a lot of his success is as a result of Domantas Sabonis. So I also feel like he's really found a comfort level within the offense, and even with the, I mean, I know there's no defense being played, but even with the with what the defensive concepts that they want, I feel like where he's been at his best is when he gets to the free throw line, because they don't really have, outside of Sabonis, they don't really have another guy that really does that a lot.
I mean, Fox a little
With at
bit.
least, yeah, but I think like with consistency, like with hey, we need to snap a 6-0 run here,
Yeah, we got to slow this
and
thing down. Yeah.
right, right. When they want to be, when they want to, make a move like that, they're those are the two players they're capable of doing, and they can get to the line and they can be efficient from the line, and it's he's playing exactly the way I'd hope. More so, like I mean, I think he should always be taking 11, 12 shots a game. I think he should be extending the floor. I think he could hover around 17 points a game. And lately he's had like 30-point games. He's had 27-point games. I don't even know that it needs to be like that, but it's been fantastic to see. When you're putting up 130 points, people gonna score. So I like what HB's doing. I think the confidence is high with him. They're just such a well-oiled machine right now on the offensive end, and it's fun to see because of how efficient they are. I mean, there's moments where you see, I still question whether or not this team is a good 3-point shooting team. That sounds crazy in a way because of how many points they put up, but there are sometimes I feel like they're a little bit too reliant upon it. But I feel also that the way this team runs and can attack, and the way they move the ball, definitely leans towards them having high success on the offensive end. So it's almost like it doesn't matter if they are or not. They've found a way around it. You just hope that they can build a little bit of success defensively. But yeah, HB is a part of it. It is fun to see. You've got three guys that are in the consideration of a Western Conference Player of the Week. I can't remember the last. You got to go back probably 02 before that happened, where you've had consideration like that. So you got two guys that have won. I think that's 05 is the last time that happened. Am I right, James? I think you saw that. The 05, I think it's 05, 06 when you had two different players win Western Conference Player of the Week, as has
I don't
happened this year.
remember. Yeah, I saw somebody put it out, but I wasn't sure.
And then
I'm
to
not
have
sure.
the third one that's even considered, or it had an opportunity to do so, is it's pretty great.
Yeah, 8 months or 8 games in the month of January for Harrison Barnes, and he's putting up 22.1 points on 55% from the field, 51% from three on 7 attempts a game. And to Sean's point, 5.6 free throw attempts, 88.9% from the free throw line. In the month of January, all De'Aaron, Domas, and Harrison are above 5 free throw attempts a game, which I think is really big for this team. But he seems like the big X factor. You know, there's been 12 games where he scores 20 plus, and the Kings are 9-3 in those games. And then there's also 9 games where he scores less than 10 points, and the Kings are 3-6 in those games. Like, I think HB showing up is really important for this team when it comes to the decision that they're going to be forced into this offseason or are pondering, I'd imagine, right now as the deadline approaches. I think that they have like a pitch to HB that didn't really exist when we were coming into last season. You know, like now that it has clicked, I think there's a way that HB can look at this as a place that he can win some basketball games and like compete a little bit in the playoffs. We'll have to see how this postseason run goes and what the ceiling of this roster is and where they continue to develop from here. But like the whole argument of or trying to pitch HB to stay, I feel like before just resolved around, well, do you want to just stay where you've been and not like have to uproot your whole family? And now it's like, no, this is a legitimately good basketball team that is well coached, that has stars. And I think he can fit into what is like an ideal role for him. There's going to be other intriguing options. I think Cleveland is the one that's been pointed out to me before that actually managed to clear up some cap space in their Donovan Mitchell deal. And I think he'd make a lot of sense on the Cavs. So there's going to be other intriguing options, obviously, for HB if it comes down to unrestricted this deadline. But the Kings have a legitimate pitch now. And I don't know that existed coming into this season outside of like a hypothetical on what this year could look like.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Brennan. I think that they can pitch him. I think that he will consider sticking around. Where I did not feel like coming into this season that there was any chance. Like we're seeing him having fun, and I think that's what he wanted. He wanted the joy of basketball to be back, you know. And I think a lot of players in Sacramento lost the joy of basketball, including De'Aaron Fox, and I think that they're finding it. And to go back to Sean's point, a lot of that is Domantas Sabonis. You know, he just makes everything easier for everybody, and you know that's a big deal to go in and play with someone like that. And like you bring up Cleveland, I'm not sure that Harrison Barnes wants to move to Cleveland. Maybe I'm wrong, but that you know it's going to be a good basketball team. But at the same time, you know he has put down roots, and if you did give him incentive to stay, I think you could also like we could see something if he does make it past the trade deadline, which I expect. I think that we could get to a point where maybe they discuss an extension. Maybe I'm crazy on that, but like it
But
seems like it would be a good time.
here's my question: should they?
I
Why
mean,
not?
I mean, this is way too early of a conversation to be had, but like, should they?
I would say yes, and I'll say because I don't think. Okay, so he already like he inked a declining scale contract last time, right? And it was a lot of money, but it went from like 19.6 to 18.3. I think is what he makes this year, 18.3 or 18.4. Like, would he take a 3 year, 45 or $48 million contract that went, you know, like 17, 16, 15 or 16, 15, 14? And then when you're looking at it that way, the salary cap is going to go up a ton in 2 years when the new television deal kicks in. You're going to have, you know, sort of your core. And whether Harrison is starting or coming off the bench, I just don't think they have an ability to replace him. Like this offseason, I'll even make this statement, which sounds crazy. Have the Kings ever in their history, their 38 years in Sacramento, ever signed a free agent that was better than what Harrison Barnes will be this coming offseason? Like just statistically, looking at his stats. So like if you can't, and I'm saying like if Harrison leaves and you had to go spend it on someone
Yeah,
else,
yeah, yeah.
can they get someone who's better,
Well, you don't have to
even
do
if
it
it's
via.
younger?
You don't need to do it via free agency. I mean, I think I think the only argument I would make is that for the role that Harrison Barnes can play on your team, Keegan Murray could probably do that by next year, at least come close to it.
But then
And
you
my
need
point would right, but then my point would be you need depth, and then you need I still think this team really needs a three like a starting bona fide three in the worst way, and you would hope that was Barnes, but they don't play him like that, and so like even if you have Barnes, you still need that. So I feel I don't know. I feel like you can make an argument, and I'm not trying to piss all over the keep Harrison Barnes crowd because I'm almost inclined to believe it. But I don't. I do find myself wondering, when you have a decision like that to make, and look, I'm probably at this point inclined not to trade him. But what does that look like for the remainder of going into this offseason and for the future with Sacramento? I don't know that I'm in the camp of like ideally you'd want to get something for him. I get it, but when you're playing as well as you are, and he's a big part of the success you're having, unless you're upgrading that position, then you're not going to trade him. So therefore, you get to the offseason and he becomes an unrestricted free agent. You run the risk of not getting anything for him, and to me, that's almost fine. I know that's because I feel like you can use that to identify something else later on. You can find trades, you can find whatever. May not be to your liking right away, but I just don't know that, I find myself wondering if extending him is the right answer, or if it's out of kind of a desperation feel, where you're like, wow, he's played really well, really coming off of 2 seasons offensively where he's played really, really well. We want to double down on that and tie him up to a 3-4 year contract. And that part, I don't know. I question.
I think he can't be a final answer. Him and Keegan Murray can't be your like front court or your 2 forwards wings for the next couple years. Like I think that if we're talking about this team making another jump, they do need a better wing in that spot. I think you could bring back HB somewhere around that like 345-ish number that James was mentioning, and still look to or just kind of wait for an opportunity to take your next swing on one of those wings to upgrade that position. Maybe HB can kind of gracefully move into a bench role, but like I think that sort of number moving forward would be fine because he is so important to this team, but it definitely can't be like okay, now that he's extended, like that position's set. I still think that they need, if we're talking about making that next jump for this team, that it has to kind of be that wing forward spot, that they need another long-term guy next to Keegan.
Yeah, and that's why I've always said, like, look, if you can get a guy like John Collins, which, whether that works or not, I mean, he really hasn't played that well. He's had injury history. He's owed a lot of money. But if you could get John Collins without giving up Harrison Barnes or Keegan Murray, then yeah, if I can have those guys as my 3 forward set going forward for the next 3 years, and I can bring back Harrison Barnes, I think that you're okay then. Are you elite? Maybe not, but I think you could still be really good depending on where Keegan Murray goes with his career, because I think, Harrison's going to be able to give you consistent minutes, whether it's off the bench or whether it's starting. And, I think that you would have potential to be like, you could do a lot of different things with that group of 3 forwards, where this year, who is the third forward on this team? I mean, at this point, it's probably Trey Lyles. And I don't think that anyone feels like 100% secure that having Trey Lyles as your third best forward on a playoff team is like a perfect world.
He's playing great,
So,
by the way. I will
oh,
say
he's
that.
playing phenomenal. Yeah.
He's been way better than anything I thought he would be this year.
Yeah.
I think another way to look at it too is like I feel like a successful team needs Harrison Barnes to play a specific role, and if Harrison Barnes is part of your future going forward, like in order for the Kings to have success, they need him to play a role that's going to be a little bit more important, especially on the offensive end, than maybe a really good team like a Dallas, for example, if he went back to Dallas, or a Memphis if he went there, or even Cleveland, to your point, James, if he ended up going, or I think it was Brenden, whoever, if he ended up going there, I think it's a different type of role that he'd be asked to play, because I feel like he's still, if he's in Sacramento, you're almost counting on him for at least the next 2 years to be a important piece, a third, fourth best player on your team.
Yeah, a fourth, fifth. I mean, maybe even sixth. I mean,
And I
is there a
don't think
possibility that?
it's a decline too. Is my point. I feel like there will be a decline with him within that stretch, and maybe that attention is better suited elsewhere in the event of, like, for example, if you go with someone younger and you're hoping for somebody who's gonna kind of blossom into the moment, and you pair them with Keegan or something like that. I don't know, just spitballing, but
No, no,
that's that.
I'm with you. I mean, I think it is a really good discussion overall, just on like what do you do in this situation because, you know, you are a team that that doesn't lure or attract free agent signings. It's really tough to go out and get, a big name free agent or even a really, really solid player. I mean, I remember one of the first things the Kings tried to do, Monty McNair tried to do, wasn't it, was to go out and get Derek Jones Jr., right? Like, that's the type of free agent that you're used to getting in Sacramento is that level of free agent. Your Rashawn Holmes, your Dwayne Dedmans, your Trevor Ariza, but at like 36. Like, you're not getting Zebo in his prime. You're getting 35, 36-year-old Zebo. And so it's something that you always have to be cognizant of the, well, can I do anything better than this? And I know that shouldn't be the way that you run your franchise forever, but I don't think the Kings are past that point where they can start thinking that they can do much better than Harrison Barnes in free agency or even via trade when, you brought up the trade. But, like, look, their first round picks are tied up. Like, sure, maybe someone would take a 2027 first round pick, especially with the potential for, Sabonis to leave. But, like, maybe they won't. And, like, if you can't replace Harrison Barnes, it's really difficult to figure out what this team would do next because even though it's just Harrison, you would take a step backwards. You got a guy who plays 33, 34 minutes a night and does what he does on the court. And the Kings just don't have that type of player. And historically, they haven't had many of those types of players. So either way, I think it's good food for thought, especially with him playing extremely well. I looked up his numbers over this week, the 4 games this week, 25 and a half points, 66.7% from the field, and 64.3% from three. On top of that, he shot 7 threes a game, hitting 4.5. He shot 5.8 free throws a game, shooting 87%. And for the guy who pointed out the true shooting of Damian Lillard, which was like 71%, actually, that's what he quoted. It was actually, when I went and looked, it was 69%. Harrison Barnes' true shooting numbers was probably like 80% this week. That's how good he was. Like, that, he was incredible this week. Okay,
But
so
two or less rebounds in 3 of those 4 games. Not going to cut it.
it's not going to cut it, man. No,
Different.
it's, well, when the ball's going in the hole all the time, like what's happened with the Kings over the last 5 games, there aren't a lot of extra rebounds. There are fewer rebounds. And when you're not playing any defense, there are fewer rebounds. When every team that's playing against you is shooting 50 to 60% from the field. Didn't the Lakers shoot like 61% from the field against the Kings in the last win? Yeah, that's tough.
All those points in the paint, man.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the business of basketball. The business of basketball. Brenden, I'm sure you've got another factor cap for us, but we keep bringing this up, and I don't know what you've heard, Sean. I don't know what you've heard, Brenden, but I continue to hear that the Kings are wide open on players like Rashawn Holmes, Alex Len, Terrence Davis, that if they can move those guys between now and February 9th, that they will. That doesn't seem like it's a lot to offer.
If you can get better by moving some of those pieces that don't play for you, yes, that don't factor into the equation, yeah,
Yes,
sure.
they're motivated to move those guys. That's what I continue to hear.
I don't even know that that's the right answer. I mean, it's like, there's these guys don't really factor into your equation very much.
No,
so you're
I
hoping
know.
that they factor into somebody else's, so you can try to find a taker and find something of value you feel that you can bring in as well. But to say that they're open, come on now.
Well, and it'd
It's
be
not
like
a,
attaching seconds to
there's
get
not a
an
fucking
improvement.
yard sale sign out front of the Golden One Center. Jesus Christ.
I think
Just for
that
Sean.
there's a yard sale sign. Yeah, I think I've seen it. It might be down the street. They might hide it like by Temple Coffee or something. But yeah, this team is going to continue to be active. They're going to continue to try, and the pieces that they are going to try to work with are players that are on the fringe of the rotation or on the fringe
Well,
of, you know,
if you're being
no,
aggressive, you're looking beyond just the people who are on the fringe of your rotation. You're looking at everybody, bro. Like you are.
yeah.
And
Well, you're
that's
not looking at
that's being
Sabonis,
aggressive.
and I
No,
don't
but
think you're looking at Fox. And yeah, I mean,
you're being aggressive. You look at everyone. You
all
want to
right.
know what the value of your franchise is. You want to know what I mean that to me that's being aggressive. And when people call you, they're not calling you for, "Hey, what's that Alex Len fella like?" No, they're not doing that.
No, no. And like, look, if the Kings are going to make a larger move, like, I don't think that they're going to try to break up the core. Like, we
You ever
keep
play?
talking,
You ever
like,
trade
Harrison
baseball
Barnes.
cards, or in Brendan's case, Pokemon cards, or something like that? Like, what did you trade? Right? You had your 5 cards, and you're like, "Oh, this is my team right here," and everyone's looking at your shit, and you just go, and the ones you'd like to trade. Boy, I wish I could trade this Charlie O'Brien for a Will Clark rookie card or something like that. Brendan, you wouldn't get that joke, but James
Nope.
definitely does.
Yep.
All right, but like you're looking at everyone looks at your cards and goes, "Oh, I like that one," and it's like, "Of course you like that one. I'm not trading that card." That's how it works in professional sports as well. So
Of course.
so yeah, you
Yeah.
might have the ones you'd like to move, but the ones you'd like to move, no one wants. So like you have to navigate those waters
I would agree. I would agree. But in the NBA, there are expiring contract. The value
for
of
sure.
expiring contracts. There are the value of picks. There are the value of even like digging into the back end of your like 8-man rotation. Would you be willing to move on some of these other players? But I think the answer is probably yes, if it meant that you got considerably better. But I think that the Kings are like actively shopping like a handful of players in an attempt to get better. And their hope is that they can find another piece that makes sense, that helps them today and helps them tomorrow and helps them potentially secure where they are in the standings, or even get better in the long term. And I think they're going to be aggressive. So on top of your basic expiring contracts and your players that, I mean, the Kings have a lot of expiring contracts. It's not just TD and Len. They also have Trey Lyles. They have Chimezi. They've got, I think, KZ Paul is just non-guaranteed for next year. Same thing with Dellavedova. Like, they've got a bunch of pieces that you can put together in a bunch of combinations of values, which is intriguing. But on top of that, they also have all of their second round picks. They've got a 23, a 24, a 25, and a 28 extra second round pick. So basically, over the next like 6 drafts, they have 10 second rounders, which have value to some people and not to others. And then they have a $4 million trade exception from Halliburton and a $1.6 million trade exception from Bagley, which both expire like right before the trade deadline. So they've got some little pieces to work with. We keep talking. Do you think they'll make a move? Do you think they won't? But like, do you think they have enough value to do anything?
I think if we're talking marginal moves like this backup center conversation we've been having for a long time, that yeah, something like Alex Len and Terrence Davis and a second round pick or two can go get you a Mason Plumlee. Like I think that if we're talking that type of marginal moves, that the names you mentioned, you could get something if you're attaching some later draft assets. I think if we're talking about a big swing, it comes down to Keegan Murray or Davion Mitchell. But I think when it comes to the guys that you mentioned, like I think they do have enough to just try to get another guy that they feel comfortable being like the 8th, 9th man in their rotation, if that's what they're really searching for.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean they've got stuff to make moves for sure, and it'll come down to whether or not they find the right piece for them. If they find, I don't think they're going to just make a move to make a move, and a lot of moves, some moves set up future moves as well. Especially with the business side of things. So I don't really know what those moves could look like at the moment. I know, you know, I've been told of certain things that could be enticing to Sacramento and options that might be worth pursuing, but you know, it's a lot of poker being played, a lot of posturing as well. So you're going to hear a lot of stuff from now between the February 9th trade deadline. So I think what will I'm curious to see how, if they can sustain the success that they had and continue to add equity, how that might change the calculus and the maybe the decision making that could play a factor. Like, do you become more aggressive? Do you shoot? Do you aim higher? Do you aim lower? Do you I don't know. There's I think there's some really tough decisions that could be made in the coming weeks.
Yeah, the 7-game road trip that's looming, it could decide a lot of things about the way the franchise, like, sort of values this specific team, this year's group of players, and what you're gonna do, whether you're gonna like go all in on something crazy or whether you understand that you're gonna take a step back. And I still think like the goal is to win every single game possible. That hasn't changed. Where I know a lot of teams, that's not their goal this year. The Kings have run through some of those teams in the last week, where their goal is clearly not to win every single game possible. And that's just kind of the way it goes, especially when there's a big name player like Victor Wembanyama waiting for the winner of the draft lottery. But I think that the Kings will try to. I think Monty McNair will try to like make his team better. I think he sees the same holes that everyone else does, and if he can make the team better, he will. That's kind of the way I would look at the next couple of weeks. All right.
I agree.
Do you have any more factor caps for us?
I do. Fact or cap? The Sacramento Kings right now, 6 games above 500, right? We've talked about flirting with 5 games above 500, and they finally passed that marker. Fact or cap, the Sacramento Kings will end the season 5 or more games above 500.
Ooh.
Well, that's a hell of a question, Brendan.
Dead air.
I'm going to say fact. I think they will. Why will they finish above? I don't know. I just feel like this team, I think that they've got something, and I think that they're like, once they got over the hump of the 4 games, it's kind of a big hump for them. I think that they've gotten to a point where, like, I think they're hungry for more. So I'm not sure that they're gonna make it there, but I just kind of have a feeling that this team is. They're more of a win percentage team than I thought they were. So, like, if you know what I mean, like there's a difference between being 4 games over 500 at the 35 game mark and being 4 games over 500 at the 78 game mark as far as win percentage wise. And I think that they can maintain some of their win percentage that they've got right now, and that will probably lead to, like, I don't know, like 45, 46 wins. That's kind of where they're at. Maybe 47 wins. So, I don't know.
I'm gonna say, as currently constructed, no, and that's not just being a dick. I just think they're way
Sean's
too
being a
bad
dick.
defensively. No, I mean they are a special team offensively. We've seen that, and we've talked about that. And I think you can hover around the maybe 5 games, but I really think it's going to be a little bit closer to 3, maybe closer to We've seen this team do some really special things. We've seen this team really struggle on the defensive end, and I just can't take that away from their DNA. That is who they are. So that's why I put so much emphasis on this little streak about really trying to build those wins. And I'm happy to see the fruits of their labor and being able to get get to that 6 mark and possibly take it higher. But I do feel like there's going to be a stumbling block along the way. I feel like if they can avoid that and really kind of swing for the fences again and add a really substantial piece, then yeah, maybe you can hold that mark. But I'm going to just caveat it just a little bit, and I'll go Cap only because I think as currently constructed, I think they will fall below the 5 games over 500. I don't think they'll be able to hold that.
I'll go with fact, but it is like super close. I think this is right about the sort of record that we're talking about, like 46-ish wins. And the last time that the Kings did this was 05-06, the last year they made the playoffs, and that was with Adam, and they went 44-38. I think that it's going to be really close. I could see it going either way. Since I have to lock something in, I'll say fact. I think this offense is good enough. I think that what it really comes down to is they just need to be better at home. I think on the road, they've been about what you would want. They're 10-9. They're one of only 3 teams in the Western Conference with a positive road record. The other 2 are the top 2 teams in the West. Nuggets and Memphis are both 11-10, but the Nuggets are 20-3 at home. Memphis is 19-3 at home. The Kings are 14-9. So I think if they can clean up, taking advantage of home court, which is something that we've heard the coaching staff and all the players on this roster really talk about the importance of. And that's going to be tough to do when you struggle the way they do defensively. But thinking that they'll probably make another move, even if it's something just kind of on the fringes, I'll say fact, but I think it's pretty close here. Next one.
Purple Kool-Aid drinking sons of
I said
bitches,
fact.
I
I
guess.
picked a side.
Yeah,
Next one, next one here. The Kings lost 4 games in a row this year, the very first stretch of the year. By the way, I'll mention before I move on, the Kings have the 16th hardest remaining strength of schedule, according to Tankathon.
So you're average. It's average.
Yeah, right about average. And it's hilarious to me. They list the toughest opponents left on the schedule and easiest opponents for each of these teams. And I'm not used to seeing Kings being listed under teams' toughest opponents remaining. That's going to take some getting used to here. But the next one I have for you guys, the Sacramento Kings will have a 5-game losing streak this season. Fact or cap? We're halfway through the year. We got to 4 at the beginning of this year. And I don't think they've had 4 again since. But teams go through stretches. What do we think?
I'm gonna say cap. I don't think they're gonna. I think they're too talented offensively, especially to suffer a 5-game streak. I mean, certainly it's possible, but I don't think that they'll get that far. If you said something like 3, and I think 3 for sure. I think 4 absolutely possible. I just don't think that they're that bad to where they'll skid that far to like a 5-game streak, barring injury, I guess.
Yeah, just like scanning the schedule. I'm gonna say cap. I don't think they will have a 5-game losing streak. Just by looking at what's left. Like there are enough teams that I think are not gonna be like super into it down the stretch. And you can see spots where, again, like they play the Bulls, the Nets, the Wizards, the Jazz, the Celtics, the Suns, like in a 6-game stretch, and like they're winnable games in almost every 5 to 7 game stretch that you look at. Like maybe, if they have a massive injury, then sure. But yeah, if I were betting, I would say, they might get to 4, but like taking that 5th game is, I don't know. It's a little tough for me to see.
There's a lot of 2-game series on the horizon too. I mean, I know we've already had some; and they were kind of spaced out. But in that 7-game road trip alone, you're going to have 2 at Minnesota, and then bookend it the other side of it, 2 at Houston. You come back, you've got 2 with the Mavericks, and then about 2 weeks later, you've got 2 in Oklahoma City. So, I like those types of matchups. I like those types of scenarios, and I really like what's on the horizon for them, even around the All-Star break, guys. Like when you go from let's go from February 6th, like if that's your cutoff and it's kind of at the back end of that road trip, and you go 2 at Houston, you come home for 2 with the Mavericks at Phoenix, and then you go to All-Star break. Okay, so that gets you to the 14th. So let's and let's I think the biggest opportunity for something like that to happen, maybe you drop the 2 to the Mavericks, maybe you lose in Phoenix, then you come back in the All-Star game, and then you've got home for Portland, and then at Clippers, at Thunder. So that's kind of the stretch where I look at if there was a skid possible. You can, maybe the All-Star break is in between, and then you have that little hiccup before and after the All-Star break. Maybe that's where you can find it. But I mean, it's kind of a silly question. I just don't. I just think the team is too talented to really sustain or to suffer a skid that massive right now. Earlier in the season, sure, but I just don't think that would happen this far now. I think they've established too much of a competitive nature, and again, they're really special defensively. I know they're not, or excuse me, offensively they're not special defensively. I feel like there's a competitive spirit to them that wouldn't allow that to happen.
Yeah, when they lost those 4 in a row at the beginning of the year, I think Coach Mike Brown was still really figuring out the rotation. That's when Casey Okpala was still starting, and the rotation just wasn't figured out. Since then, they lost 3 in a row in that second night of a back-to-back in Atlanta, and then they played in Boston, and then came back against Phoenix, which when Phoenix was still top of the West, we were talking about how it's a tough second night of the back-to-back on the road, and then you played the best team in the East and the West. Outside of that, they haven't lost more than 2 games in a row this year. So maybe I should have actually lowered this number to 4, but I'll agree with you guys.
Another way to look at it, Brenden, guys, is like if they did suffer that, like, boy, that would be bad. I mean, it would be just such a blow to this team, because we talk about how cluttered up the West is. Like, you'll still be relevant, you'll still be able to fight for your positioning, but it's something like that could cost you. You could fall
3rd to 8
pretty significantly.
Yeah.
I pointed out, like, there's 4 games that separate 4th in the West to the 11th in the West. Stuff like that can really turn, and that's just how fragile it is in the West right now. No one's good. It's too much parity.
Too much parity.
The Suns are 1-9 in their last 10, and they're sitting at 12.
It's crazy. I know, it's crazy.
It is wild. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what this team is going to be. I don't know. I really don't. Like, I could see this team easily still being a play-in team. I still think that 6 is like a really tough ceiling to get past, even if they are like 4 right now. Like, still 6 is like finishing at 6 at the end of the season would be really, really stunning.
Even right now, like, I think some people would be like, well, how do you say that? They're 4th in the West. They've shown that they can do that. Man, if you could finish and avoid the play-in tournament altogether, that would be a monumental achievement.
Yeah. I mean, if you're the Kings, in order to progress, in order to take the natural steps forward, you want a 7-game playoff series. Like, whether it lasts 5 or 4, you want to be in one of those series. That's it. And so whether they can do that or not, I don't know yet. But it's certainly something that they've got to circle and say, okay, how do I get to that? How do I get to the playoffs, not the play-in? Because for this team to grow and to take those natural steps, you need to take that big step first. So anyway, I think it's intriguing.
I have one final one for you guys.
All right.
The Kings have 3 NBA TV games left this year. I'm not counting those as nationally televised games. So we'll say ESPN or TNT, unless I'm forgetting anything else. The Kings will have another nationally televised regular season game this year, meaning the NBA would have to, what's the term they use, flex their schedule or something like that, and make that decision to add one. So will the Kings have another regular season nationally televised game this year?
Fact. And here's more to the point. I think it's more than one. I think they'll be added to the national television schedule, separating it from NBA TV, because I know a lot of fans hate when it's NBA TV. I think it will be an ESPN TNT. I think you're going to get more than one.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to go with Sean. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be 4, but I certainly think they can still fit in 2. I think they can still get at least 2 big-time games. And the league knows that they took one away. Yeah. The league knows that they took one away, and they took it away because Houston's bad, not because the Kings are bad. But I still think yes.
There's that skeptical feeling of, like everyone else had, even us included, a month ago, where it's like, is this for real? Is this really going to happen? Now I think it's now like, no, it's undeniable. This is a fun team to watch. They're in a lot of tight contests. They're, you know, they
Even their
so
blowouts
many
don't feel
games.
like
Yeah,
blowouts.
all their games. So many of their games are going down to the wire, man. Like, and
Yeah.
that's all over the map as well, because like the league in general, like a 20-point lead means nothing in this league anymore. It can evaporate so quickly. So it's not what it used to be. So I think even still, this team is going to be a team that I think already is kind of one of those league pass alert teams where people tune in and watch the ending of so many of these games. And by virtue of that, I think people are taking notice, and you just have to find the right situation. So yeah, I 100% believe that this will be a team that picks up an ESPN and TNT game. And I mean, just look at the Lakers. If they continue to struggle, I mean, they're on deep national TV so much. I know it's LeBron and he's chasing history. I think once that kind of subsides a bit, people realize that the Lakers aren't really a fun team to watch. So,
No, they're not.
The Kings will be the benefactor of that, or the benefit. I don't think of my vocabulary right, but they'll benefit from that.
All right. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. Do we have any final thoughts? Sean, what do you got? Final thoughts?
Oh man, could take it anywhere. I think we should talk some Niners, buddy. This is some fun. I know you're a Niners fan. I know Brenden is also a Niners fan.
Yes.
What do we like against the Cowboys coming up? I am going to have so much attention. Potentially, if the Niners keep winning the way they are, my attention for the coverage of them, it's going to really ramp up. So it could mean some missed Kings opportunities, but it's getting wild, man.
I think they're fun. They have more skilled players than any team in the league. They have a better defensive line than any team in the league, a better front seven. Yeah, I mean, if I were to like I don't know that you can beat some of the teams on the other side of the bracket, like in the Super Bowl, but I think that this is a team that should represent the NFC. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I think Dallas is a tough one to get past, but the Niners' ability to put pressure on the quarterback is tremendous. And I know Dallas has that potential as well, and I know Philadelphia has that potential as well to put pressure on the quarterback. Yeah, I just like what I see from the Niners. I would be surprised if they're not at least in the NFC Championship game.
As a guy that did not watch any regular season football games that the Niners did
Jesus,
not take
Brenden.
part in, I am
okay.
100% a believer. I am a
I
Brock
thought you
Purdy
fell asleep
fan.
during football games or something
No,
like that.
I'll watch 5 football games. Only Niner games are the only thing I watch. I'm not going to lie. I've been watching playoffs, but throughout the course of the regular season, I'm not a huge football guy outside of the Niner games. But I think that Purdy's been fun to watch. I think that Jimmy had grown frustrating for myself, and I like what they're getting there. And they just have so many stars and playmakers on their team. I'm all about it. I hate the Cowboys. I have too many family members that are Cowboys fans, and I would just never hear the end of it. Just force them to take as many field goals as you can, because that guy can't hit any, apparently.
Oh, that was rough. That was rough.
Apparently he was pretty good throughout the regular season, but he missed 4.
Was. Well,
Four extra
He
points.
missed points, yeah.
That's never happened before, right? I don't
know.
think that's ever happened. Like even
And
like
if
in the
it
snow.
And if it did that kicker survive the next week? Did he? Are we sure he's?
They're sticking with him. It sounds like.
I know.
So,
give me a final score. What do you like? Niners, Cowboys final score.
Oh.
I've been struggling with this. Not that I mean, look, you're going to have the Niners on more rest. You've got a rookie quarterback, which is still there. You know, Dak finally wins his first playoff game, and it comes against Tom Brady. And by the way, the Buccaneers look awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they looked awful all year. They really did.
I was hoping for this matchup because I really wanted to see. I want to feel that. I didn't want to see the Packers again in the playoffs. I wanted to see another look. Like it or not, there's still a Niners Cowboys rivalry with a lot of the fan base, and so I wanted to see that. But it could be careful what you wish for, because you don't want teams catching heat at the right moment, and they've been a decent team. Dare I say, a good team.
Yeah.
I think the Niners defense was ready for him, though. I think that's I think everything starts and ends with that defense, and if that rookie quarterback Brock Purdy can just not wet the bed, like I said, and he comes off a career performance like he had last weekend. What do you think, James?
31-20 Niners.
Ooh, I like that. See, yeah, I'm trying not to get my hopes up because growing up a Niner fan, I can put that aside because, again, the only person I'm impartial to at this point is my pregame chat with Jerry Rice every freaking pregame, who's basically the equivalent of Sourdough Sam out there. I mean, he's like a mascot for this team, and in a good way. It's just so weird to see that the greatest receiver of all time is out there pumping up the crowd. But I digress. And
With the
I just
Lakers
like
logo
this,
on his head, but that's okay.
yeah, for people who don't know, it's because his Goat Fuel energy drink has a sponsorship with the Lakers. And I was like, hey, we can't get you up with the Kings. I mean, trust me, he's got people littered in the organization that he knows and has a connection to. And he's like, I guess they tried and they didn't go with it. So,
Huh. All right.
yeah.
I mean,
But
we know that
the stars
Roger
are aligning,
Craig
James.
is super close with Vivek.
Yeah. The stars are aligning, though. Like, if the Niners go to the Super Bowl, Sean goes to the Super Bowl.
Oh.
No one's at the Super Bowl, right?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Sean goes and shoots his shot. Shoot
No,
your
I'm not gonna
shot,
shoot
Sean.
my shot with it, but watch the
He's already
queen do
shot
her
it.
thing. Yeah. Well, stars are aligning, guys. What do you see?
No
What
way
do you
Sean's
have?
gotten to this point in his life and not taken a shot yet.
No, I didn't take my shot, but I would. Shoot, I would. No, I'm not going to. What I will say is, wait till you see the hoodie I wear next week.
Uh-oh.
That's a tease. Yep, next week. Not if we do another podcast this weekend or this week. I don't think I'll have it by then. But just
right.
you guys, just you boys, wait.
Your Rihanna stuff. Crazy Sean. All right, Brenden, do you have any final thoughts since we were completely sidetracked
Yeah,
by
sorry,
Sean
it's
and his
my fault.
craziness?
I'll just say 27-17 for my guess.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Go Niners, obviously. I don't. Yeah. No. I'm good on final thoughts, actually.
Jesus. Did you watch anything? Did you get anything under
No.
your belt?
Nothing at
Oh.
all. I saw Life on
let us down
Netflix.
again.
Didn't click on it, but I will click on it soon. I didn't click on
Oh, so
anything,
you
to be
just-
fair.
oh, you
I
just saw it on
closed
the
out of
menu?
Netflix. I closed out of Netflix. I didn't end up picking something else, but did confirm it's on Netflix. I will get to it.
It is. It's on Netflix. Yeah. I was looking at Netflix that day when we were talking. I was like, hey, look
Okay.
at this. Look at all these movies on, because The Burbs is fun. Like, it's a
He's not
throwback.
gonna like it. He won't like it.
I don't know. It's so
I
good.
think he will like. I think he'll like Life. Can you promise me you don't fall asleep when you watch a movie? Don't go in your
No.
cradle. Just like your swinging cradle that puts you automatically. Watch it in that video game chair that you have right there, because you ain't falling asleep if you're sitting in that thing, right?
No, you're not wrong. It's definitely because the only time I throw movies on is like pretty much as I'm laying down.
Yeah. Don't lay down. Keep your feet on the floor, because once the feet get up, I know what happens.
There we go.
All right.
I'll try.
All right, so my final thoughts. Number one, I hate skunks. We got a skunk or a family of skunks or more than one or, I don't know, in the basement. So that's not been fun. There's nothing worse than waking up to the smell of, like, burning tar because that's when it's that close to that close to you. That's what it smells like.
What
so
is
that's
going
not
on up there?
Well, this is it's almost skunk mating season, so they're all over the place. So
I'm sorry.
yeah,
What?
yeah. So
They're
we
using-
had a dude come out today and put in a trap door in the basement, so once they go out, they can't come back in. And they always go out. They all leave every night and go and rummage and forage, and then come back. So we'll lock their skunk ass out tonight. So hopefully that. And if you guys have heard pounding, like during the
Those
podcast,
are the skunks getting it on.
it's a family show, Sean. It's a family show.
Well, you said it's mating season.
Don't be a dick, Sean. It's a
They're
family
using,
show.
they're using your house as
A soup kitchen. Yeah.
ahead.
My next door neighbor is getting a new deck put on right now, and I see them out. Like, there's a bunch of people literally right outside the deck, outside my window. Like,
You're jealous, aren't you? You're about to go build a
I still
deck
can't
of
do
your own.
anything. I'm not there yet. Yeah. My next door neighbor is 98. Yeah, she just keeps trucking.
So
on
if you go
trucking.
down if you go down to your basement right now, there's skunks in your basement, or like, or in the.
Oh,
in
they're
the-
hiding.
under the-
Oh no, they hide. They're nocturnal. So yeah. So I have my floor in my basement. I have an unfinished basement, which is big. I have like 600 square feet plus down there. But there's an area where they can go underneath the wood. Like there's a wood deck down there that someone built before I, like sort of a floor, before I bought the house, and they hide underneath there. Yeah, it's unpleasant. Trust me.
God
Yeah.
damn, we live different lives, man. I know I say that a lot.
But you can have a skunk in downtown Sacramento in your
not
basement.
not living out,
Not in an apartment, but yeah.
and I would call someone like Brenden, who property manager, and say, hey, Brenden, or if I owned the house, I would call an exterminator, and
Well, I call an
would
exterminator.
I'd go
Yeah.
Karen on them. I'd be like, if they couldn't take care of this in 5 minutes, it's no.
Oh no,
this
they're
is not
coming.
good.
Yeah, they're coming up. They don't go look for them. You can't go look for a skunk. That's even worse, because their fear mechanism is to like shoot at you. Yeah, no, you don't want that, because then you're just like
No.
you've done it all over. You need to let them wander out on their own accord, and then lock them out. That's how it goes. And I told the guy, I'm like, well, where do they go? He's like, oh, they'll just do this to one of your neighbors. I'm like, oh, that's not very nice. He's like, yeah, just pass him my card. Just have him
Great business.
move around the neighborhood. Yeah,
You've got
it
a
is
skunk. You've got a
It is a
skunk
good
trap
business
house.
model, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a skunk trap house right now, and they're gonna multiply because they're breeding. Man, you need to
They're
put some
they're gonna
traps
be
up.
gone by the end of the week. They come back out. I think they come back out to take the door, like next Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah, so they put in a removable door in one of my vents, and then they'll pull that, and hopefully the skunks will be gone by then.
Skunk mating season. That's something I didn't think we'd be touching on the Kings Beat podcast, but here we are, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it's been a rough like 48 hours, but it's not the first time. I mean, these things happen. These things happen when you live in the sticks. So, all right. I think we've talked about all we can talk about. I don't think we're missing anything.
Almost done with White Lotus. Really like it.
Oh yeah, I finished out a while ago. White Lotus season 2, right?
I'm 2 episodes into season 2, so it means I got like 4 left, 5 left, something like that.
Something like that. Yep.
You should watch it, Brendan. Think you might like it. It's on HBO.
I've been busting through BritBox shows nonstop. It's just, I don't know, just my world. I did
get
go
those
see,
skunks.
Avatar on Monday with my youngest. It was a little violent. Yeah. I don't know. It was good, but I don't know. Too many killing of animals and stuff.
Jeez.
A little strange.
That movie of breaking into LeBron's house that one of you had teased before just came out, right?
Oh no. Yeah, probably. I don't think I'm going to see that.
Why not?
I'm a little
James?
curious.
Is that the remake of House Party?
Maybe.
No, it's 2 dudes who literally break into a house and then realize that it's LeBron James's house and he's not there, so they throw a party.
Yeah, it's House Party, right? It's a remake of House Party.
I don't know. Is that
Remember Kid and
is that
Play
what's-
had a House Party?
Yeah, I remember, but I don't remember them breaking into someone's house and it being someone. Like I guess I forget the premise of House Party. I thought the premise was they were just going to a
Premise
house
was
party.
to have a house party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Brendan has no idea what we're talking
No,
about.
he's embarrassed for both of us now.
That's right. Kid and Play. Sweet. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. We'll be back later this week. I don't know when, but we'll be back for another podcast. Hopefully we can fit Sean into his busy schedule with going down to Niners. We will have a off the record with the Kings Beat virtual happy hour next week. That's the plan, at least for right now. I will announce a guest as soon as possible. But that should be fun. In order to get that, you got to become a premium subscriber to the Kings Beat. And I think that's going to do it. So for Fox 40's Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast, I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. See you soon.